Hey guys, as some of you might know from watching the channel, I've recently finished my DIY canopy fit out on the back of the D-Max here after more late nights in the garage than I care to admit. But now that it's mostly finished, I thought it might be a good opportunity for me to cycle back and touch on what I think the pros and the cons are of building your own accessories like this compared to buying ready-made products from a store to help you guys decide which is the right path to take for your setup. I will just mention though that these pros and cons are probably going to be more geared towards people like myself who are in no way a professional and just kind of enjoy tinkering around in the garage on the weekend. Because if you are a trained cabinet maker, for example, some of these pros and cons might not apply to you. Anyway, let's kick things off with the list of pros. So kicking off our list of pros is what I think is the biggest advantage of them all, and that's that DIY allows you to tailor your build to your specific requirements and, more importantly, your available space. Now, I know you can also go down the route of getting something custom made for your setup, but that's normally insanely expensive. So for the purpose of this video, I'm just comparing DIY builds like my drawers here to off-the-shelf products. I think the best example of this from my particular build would be this triple drawer system on the right-hand side here, because prior to building this, I actually did do a ton of research, believe it or not, to see if there's any off-the-shelf products I could just buy, slap it in and be done with it, but nothing existed in the configuration that I wanted. So by building my own solution like this, I've been able to use the entire space as effectively as possible with a limited wasted space and get something that's exactly what I wanted. Now, this is actually my third canopy build overall, and in both my previous two builds, I did use those off-the-shelf, ready-to-go drawers, and honestly, they did work fine. They did exactly what they were supposed to do, but now that I'm able to do a bit of a side-by-side comparison between something custom, there is so much less wasted space with a custom build like this, and for me, that's a pretty big deal. Now, the second pro can be cost, which does sound a little bit cryptic, and we will actually touch on it again in this same video. But if you can be resourceful about how you collect your materials for your project, you can save yourself a ton of money by building your own accessories. Next up, if you've built it, you'll know exactly how to pull it apart and fix it if it breaks, change it around whenever you want to, or even upgrade it. So these drawers, for example, I can fully remove any of these drawers, remove the tops, or even remove those false walls with a single Phillips screwdriver in about 5 minutes. And where this comes in handy for me is that my lithium battery lives behind this false wall down on the floor of the canopy. So whenever I need to access that battery, all I do is pull that wall off, pull one of these drawer tops off, and I can access my battery easily. And finally, now this does come down to personality a bit, but I honestly get so much satisfaction from learning new skills and solving problems during a build like these drawers. Every build I'm learning something new, which then makes the next project that little bit easier. And that cycle sort of repeats so that every new project is kind of like the culmination of skills learnt from previous builds. So moving on to a few reasons why you might not want to undertake a DIY project and just go and buy something ready-made instead. Number one is time, because these things take forever to build. So expect a few late nights in the garage if you're taking on projects like this. Honestly, like, I've built quite a few things now, and yet every single project, I always dramatically underestimate how much time it's going to take. Now, granted, it does take me a little bit longer than most people because I'm setting up cameras and filming the projects for YouTube as well. But even with that being said, my new rule of thumb lately has been to realistically try and work out how long I honestly think a project's going to take, and then I just double it straight up, and quite often I'm still a little bit short on how much time it actually takes. So these drawers, for example, after I'd completely finished the whole planning procedure, so just the build time, was a full week of 10-hour days. Number two is actually cost again, and if you're wondering how it can be in both lists at the same time, it just comes back to what I was saying earlier about being resourceful about how you collect your materials. Because if you're able to buy some like old furniture or Facebook Marketplace for $20 and repurpose that into your DIY project, then no questions about it, you're going to save yourself a ton of money. But if you go down to a local hardware store and buy everything brand new instead, honestly, you're not going to be saving that much money compared to buying something brand new from the store. And in a lot of cases, you'll actually be spending more money. Now, I know this because I'm actually in that second group of people, unfortunately. Now, I really wanted to get this build done as soon as possible for a few trips I had planned. So I did go down to my local Bunnings and I bought all this stuff brand new, which did cost me an absolute fortune. I haven't added it all up intentionally because I don't want to cry, but if I was to take a rough guess at how much this drawer system cost me to build, I'd say it's well over $800, and there's definitely cheaper pre-made options out there. And finally, now this is something that doesn't really bother me much at all, but I wanted to include it anyway, and that's that generally speaking, stuff that comes pre-built out of a factory is going to be a little bit neater than a DIY project. And it's normally stuff like, it's little stuff, right? Like how I've painted these drawers black just with a spray can. My carpet's not perfect around the edge. Maybe it's just a reflection of my craftsmanship, I'm not sure. Or my locking levers here are just cut down aluminium angle that's just been riveted on there. It's like a little bit sharp there as well. So, I mean, the stuff like that to me is just kind of character of a DIY build, and it doesn't bother me at all. But if you're chasing perfection, then pre-built is probably the way to go. Well, those are just my pros and cons of tackling DIY projects. If you guys are still on the fence, I would honestly recommend just giving it a crack, because for me anyway, it's just so satisfying to live out of a setup that you've both designed and built for yourself. Let me know if you guys have any other pros and cons in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.